Okay, today we're going to try and talk about Minecraft. The ex-CEO of Hytale, Simon Hypixel, just replied to his mysterious tweet from last week, no risk, no tail, with an update, or, well, an emoji, that suggests things are going very well on his side. A user asked, would you care to give us any details about how things are moving along? Simon replying, I won't say much, for now you get to decrypt my emojis and memes. Then posted yet another sunglasses emoji. That's 2 emojis now, count 'em. Want 3? Tough, you get a gif instead. He said monkey on the phone after that, heavily hinting that he is now in official talks with Riot Games to get Hytale back. I mean, he mentioned just last week that all a deal like this takes is a phone call, and with Riot Games back at their offices from summer break, it was just a case of how busy they were. Now we suddenly get all of this from Simon a week later? I see no reason why he would get people all excited out of nowhere or tweet these things I'm talking about today unless something has gone very, very right in the process. He even followed me plus a number of Hytale community members, and that's far from the end of it, because just like that, those 2 emojis and a gif kicked off the most exciting day in Hytale's history, as Simon not only spent all night answering big questions about the plan for the game, but he also confirmed pricing for if it was to release, and many details about what that release would have. First, when asked if servers or multiplayer would be accessible on launch, he said we'd start with survival and creative, maybe one or the other. People could also run their own servers and play with friends, which is great because the community was getting increasingly more concerned about not being able to host your own private server on the new engine. We would probably not host ourselves on day 1, he continues. We would be setting up hardware for a while. I don't even know if there's a single minigame or lobby that works, as I haven't had the chance to play it yet. Simon wants to focus on survival or creative first, just to get Hytale out as soon as possible. Quote, minigames require a bit of infrastructure hardware to work, so it takes some time. I don't want to make people wait, we gotta break that release curse. Later on, we would do adventure/story mode, and that would have a more complete survival loop with more content. With people still confused on whether that meant adventure mode would be separate to survival mode, he says he still doesn't have a final answer. It could very well be that the survival mode gets the adventure questline later on as it gets more and more content. As for early access release, I would make the separation so that people understand we cut adventure content to be able to ship as soon as possible. Again here, he's doubling down on his stance of just putting it in our hands so we can play something at the very least after all these years. I don't mind experiencing iterative development if it means I can play Hytale while, I'm still young. Then Simon did something no one else has done before. After being asked about the old monetization plans, he spoke on the possible pricing of the game. Was or is there a monetization plan in mind for Hytale? You obviously mentioned you're down to drop $25 million on this, but you've also mentioned it would mostly go towards buying the IP. Just wondered what, if it has been decided yet, is the initial plan. Simon at first responding, correction, I said 25 mil would go towards development, not purchase. Many articles got that wrong. We also had no plans back then because we were waiting to see the reaction from the trailer. Then we got a ton of offers, so we actually paused that decision, which definitely makes things more interesting. I know a lot of people interpreted his comments a few weeks ago as meaning he would use the money to buy Hytale and then would need funding after that. But in reply to another tweet, Simon said the best GoFundMe for Hytale is just to release. Just like the best GoFundMe for Connor is just to subscribe. When my friend Mine said this makes it all more interesting, Simon said, to be fair, I would probably need to burn 1 or 2 million maximum before release. Then use the income of the early access to fund the development if things get tough. I can cover it until it gets better between updates. Then the big clarification when Mine followed up asking, is it fair to assume you would sell Hytale as a pay-to-play game to get back some early revenue? Simon confirmed yes, probably 2 or 3 different versions. First would be a lower price version for people who can't afford or simply want to try before upgrading. 2 would be a supporter pack version where you get cosmetic stuff to show your support. And 3, maybe some kind of founder pack with multiple access keys and extra cosmetics, subject to change, but that's my current thinking. Access keys here I'm imagining mean more like beta keys or game codes that you can give to your friends. This is a big change though, as everyone was expecting Hytale with Riot to drop as free to play with lots of opportunities to then spend money within the ecosystem itself, like using high coins on cosmetics as if they were Robux or V-Bucks, for example. What Simon's saying drastically shifts things up though, meaning the initial version of Hytale, if acquired by Simon, will be behind a price tag until or possibly even after the launch of the game. This could just be temporary for the early access version, but it does somewhat disrupt the idea of a free-to-play platform with a monetizable economy. If you pay for the game, you probably don't want to also spend triple that acquiring the cosmetics from the game. But I could be wrong, gaming platforms are evolving endlessly, maybe there's a solution to this. All I know is I don't care how much that founder pack costs, I'll pay $100, I know that's the standard rate for games nowadays, right? Heck, I'll pay $1,000 to get Hytale. When another user asks specifically for that price that Simon had in mind, he says, I'll try to buy the IP first and then do the maths, which is totally valid. In response to an earlier tweet that we covered from Simon about survival or creative releasing first, a user said, the way I interpret this, survival mode would be more akin to Minecraft's survival mode. Very little story, but involves braving the environment and bodily needs like food. Considering I'm used to Minecraft survival, I'm totally down for this. With Simon confirming, yes, it will of course feel a bit bare bones day one, but the exploration is going to be great. They would then spend many years improving the experience, but for now they just need to get it out to use the income to scale the team. He said he spoke to an ex-Hytale dev earlier and that apparently, quote, exploration was insanely good. Tons and tons of prefabs and a crazy underground to explore. It was amazing back in 2019, but apparently it's much better now. Again, he's definitely referring to the legacy engine here, as we know that's where the bulk of the content is, and that's what Simon is really interested in. In regards to whether the story mode will be infinite like Minecraft, as in you kill the dragon but can still play the game, Simon says it would make sense. Yeah, we can add more content later, but you would get to keep your world. Another Hytale YouTuber, Canadian Flash, reminded us that back in the day they claimed to have over 7,000 prefabs, basically pre-generated structures and buildings. I'm sure many more were made after that, he says. It has been over 4 years since that claim. Simon said, yeah, they had an incredible team that worked non-stop on this for many years. No other game can compare with the amount of handcrafted work. You gotta love how bold and straight to the point Simon is. It's clear over the last few weeks he's unlocked and let out that inner child who used to be so excited for this project. This is the type of passion that is contagious to people. He's doing a solid job of reminding us of that legacy engine energy. Regarding those prefabs, one user put, some are just trees, small buildings, but at least 500 have to be unique structures, right? This was always a letdown for me in Minecraft because there's like 27 structures total. That was what got me hyped for Hytale. With Simon claiming, yeah, for sure, some blog posts even showed off dungeons as well. Apparently they have an instanced dungeon system in the legacy engine, so if that is still working, it would mean an insane amount of content we could do. Trying to contain my excitement until the game is saved. We've actually seen quite a few examples of the dungeon tech being worked on from old dev portfolios and even official Hytale blog posts. So I'd hope it works at least to some degree, and Simon is capable of taking advantage of that. He also said he would need to take a look at everything before figuring out whether to bring something like Zone 4 back, for instance, a huge area of the adventure world that was shown in the trailer and for years after that, but then cut by the team last year. Especially as the main reason we were given for its cut was due to the crunch on the new engine. It may not have needed as much work on Legacy and thus be back on the table. In other big news, as we all know, Hypixel Studios and Riot intended for Hytale to be cross-platform, and that was a big reason for the game getting delayed, because they needed to build a new engine to do that. But was that their only option? One user stated, people have said that there were other options to have cross-platform without rewriting the engine. If you buy the Hytale IP, will it be cross-platform? And Simon said, yes, there are options, but it would not happen day one. Just know that long-term, it is definitely possible with the legacy engine. This is another comment that I know will get people talking and curious about exactly why the old team went the path they did when Riot acquired the company. With a follow-up then asking if there will be a system for adding friends or something directly in the game to facilitate the arrival of cross-platform later, Simon said, yeah, he's actually found a possible solution already, so hopefully even that will be included on day one. Friends lists were the first thing I added on Hypixel in 2013. The social aspect is key, he said, which I couldn't agree more with. We've built a great community over the years here, and surprisingly that community has been more active in the last few weeks than they have since like 2021. The pure amount of tweets Simon is putting out, and man, they're not even full tweets, they're like all replies branched off, and it takes so long and I'm not even halfway through. He's even mocking us. At this point he's saying we're running out of questions. I say bring it on. This is an action call to anyone watching. If you've got any questions, which many of you probably do at this point, go and ask Ask Simon. Let's get everything out of the way, that way I can cover them all in one huge Hytale Q&A video if this deal goes through. Real quick, I'm recording this after the rest of the video as well because I got a heads up that Oscar Garvin, the guy behind the entire soundtrack of Hytale, has been given the portfolio rights to share the entire soundtrack of Hytale. I'm still unsure if I can show it here on the channel myself. I don't want Riot to sue me right before selling the game to Simon, but I just wanted to let you guys know, and we'll talk about it more in the next video. Simon also confirmed that there would be an official Hytale Discord server, but until then, you can join mine. Plus, if you want to see all the other answers and reveals Simon gave last night, including more context on the engine and the coding language, check the video on screen now. Thanks for watching, Queen.